Single mom's heartwarming act saves elderly man hours later, CEO discovers incredible truth. The sun blazed down on the quaint suburban town, casting shadows on its charming streets. Inside the bustling diner, the air was thick with the smell of sizzling bacon and fresh brewed coffee. Jane, a devoted single mom in her mid-30s, hurried between tables, her hair glistening with sweat. Every day felt like a race, and she was determined to finish strong for her spirited teenage daughter, Sarah. One sweltering afternoon, as plates clattered and orders were shouted, her eyes fell on Mr. Thompson. A frail war veteran, he struggled with a bag of groceries outside the store, a testament to his quiet dignity. Whispers of his lonely life faded into the background as Jane felt a tug in her heart. She knew the town's history, they all had stories sewn into the fabric of their lives. Without a second thought, she rushed over. "Mr. Thompson. Let me help you with that," she said, her voice warm and reassuring. Surprised, he hesitated, his pride flaring, but Jane's kind smile softened his resolve. They walked side by side, the sun shining light on their shared paths. Each step was filled with laughter and nostalgic stories, Mr. Thompson's eyes twinkling as he recounted tales of bravery. "You know, Jane, it's the small acts of kindness that really matter." Jane felt her heart swell with admiration. In him, she found a flicker of hope, proof that heroes still existed in everyday life. Meanwhile, across town, the CEO of a thriving tech company, someone who once sat listening to Mr. Thompson's lessons on honor, heard about Jane's selfless act. It struck a chord with him, reminding him of the principles that built his success. He decided he had to find this woman, to discover if the kindness he once learned still shone bright in today's world. But as Jane settled in at home that evening, a storm brewed in Sarah's heart. Bullying at school had pierced their already bruised lives, leaving the girl feeling isolated and powerless. Jane could sense her daughter's pain, the weight of their financial struggles loomed ever larger over their relationship. Torn, Jane felt the familiar squeeze of fear tightening her chest. Should she chase the job opportunities inspired by the CEO's interest, or focus on protecting her daughter from the cruelty of peers? Unbeknownst to Jane, Mr. Thompson was more than what he seemed. Years of discreet philanthropy had garnered wealth beneath the quiet exterior of his lonely existence. As Jane grappled with her decisions, hope flickered as he prepared to reveal himself a benefactor ready to change their fates. Just when Jane thought despair might swallow her whole, fate intervened once more. She found herself face to face with Mr. Thompson again, destined to learn about an opportunity that could forever reshape their lives. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The air was thick with tension. Would Jane choose healing for Sarah, or the promise of a brighter future? Both paths shimmered with potential, yet uncertainty loomed large. The community held its breath, waiting for the inevitable turn of events. Would Mr. Thompson's truth illuminate the dark clouds hanging over their lives, or would it all slip away? The answer, like the summoning storm, brewed just around the corner. The diner was quieter now, the rush of lunch faded into soft clinks of dishes and low conversations. Jane found herself seated across from Mr. Thompson, the weight of his presence almost overwhelming. His lined face was serious but softened by the kindness in his eyes. "Jane," he began, his voice steady, "I didn't just come here for small talk." Her heart raced. The air thickened with possibility. What could he possibly have to say that would change everything? "What is it, Mr. Thompson?" He paused, his hands clasped, as if gathering his thoughts. "I've been watching you. Watching how you care for your daughter, how you lend a hand when you see someone in need. It reminds me of the values I fought for. Values I would like to support." Jane leaned in. "Support how?" What do you mean? He cleared his throat, the moment heavy with anticipation. I'm not just the lonely old man you see. I've been quite fortunate in life, fortunate enough to have resources that could help those in need. People like you. Her pulse quickened, the implications spinning in her mind. You mean? Yes, I would like to offer you a job. A real opportunity, not just to keep your head above water, but something that could allow you to thrive. And along with that, I can help Sarah with her school situation, the bullying, the emotional scars. She deserves better. Jane's heart swelled with hope. This was the chance she needed. But why me? There are so many deserving families. Mr. Thompson's gaze softened, revealing depths of understanding. Because kindness is rare. You've shown that. I want to invest in goodness, and I believe you are a beacon of that. It could change everything for you both. Tears brimmed in her eyes, a twisting blend of gratitude and disbelief. I don't know what to say, just say yes, Jane. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. In that moment, Jane felt the weight of her struggles begin to lift. Hope flickered, but what about Sarah? Would she be ready to accept change? What about my daughter? Jane said, glancing at the floor. She's been through so much, the job would grant flexibility. You could set aside time for her, ease her worries. I can help her navigate her difficulties. Perhaps even offer support at her school. His sincerity was palpable, her head spun with the possibilities. Could this really be their way out? Could it lead to the healing her daughter desperately needed? She held his gaze, searching for any hint of false promises, but found none. Just then, the door swung open, the bell ringing as a group of teenage girls entered, their laughter sharp, their eyes scanning the diner. Jane's heart raced. Had they come to target Sarah? Jane. Mr. Thompson's voice broke her concentration. Are you okay? She nodded, but unease twisted in her stomach. Would Sarah cope if this news reached the wrong ears? As the girls settled into a booth near the window, the tension was palpable. Jane inhaled deeply, bracing herself. This moment could redefine their lives, but it could also be the catalyst for more pain. She took Mr. Thompson's hand, feeling the warmth of his support. Let us do it, she whispered, fear battling hope. Mr. Thompson smiled, a glint of approval in his eyes. Then let us make a plan. I'll help you navigate this new path. Outside, the storm clouds loomed ever closer, almost echoing Jane's internal struggle. She felt tension rising in her chest, mixed with newfound determination. Would this partnership unleash a tide of positive change, or would the shadows of the past rise up to meet her? As the laughter of the girls pierced her thoughts, one thing became clear. The next chapter had begun, and with it came the weight of choices that could alter their futures forever. Do you think she'll be okay? Jane asked, uncertainty creeping in again, her heart now heavy with a new worry. Change is rarely easy, Mr. Thompson replied gently. But it's often necessary. Little did Jane know, the difficulties ahead held surprises that would unravel everything she thought she understood about herself, her daughter, and the strength that lies within both of them. Could they truly embrace this new journey? As they sat surrounded by clinking plates and hushed voices, the atmosphere crackled with anticipatory energy, the bell rang once more, and with it, came a rush of wind that slammed the door shut behind the girls. A new day was dawning, and with it, the whispers of secrets yet to unfold. The laughter of the teenage girls echoed in Jane's ears, sharp and unwelcome as ice shards. She glanced nervously toward their booth. It wasn't just noise, it was a reminder of what Sarah had endured. The girls were part of a world Jane had tried so hard to shield her daughter from. What if they heard about Mr. Thompson's offer? What if they twisted it into something cruel? Stay focused, Jane, she whispered to herself. Mr. Thompson squeezed her hand gently, a silent tether pulling her back to the present. You're going to need to breathe, he said, observing the storm brewing in her eyes. This is a big step, but it's one worth taking. She nodded, trying to collect her thoughts, but the worry for Sarah clawed at her heart. "Let us start by talking through what the job would entail," he suggested, his voice warm, drawing her focus back to him. "You don't have to decide everything right this moment." Jane took a deep breath, allowing herself to ground in his words. "Right. I'm worried about how Sarah will react." "Let us face it together," Mr. Thompson assured her. "If you decide to take this job, she will see how it brings you both strength and security. Kids pick up on their parents' emotions. If you're confident, she will be too." She wanted to believe him. Such a leap felt terrifying, yet the thought of stabilizing their lives kept her anchored. "And the support for Sarah? You really think that could help?" "Absolutely," he replied, his eyes sparkling with conviction. "I have connections with educators. We can look at getting her a counselor, maybe even a mentor she relates to. Someone who understands what she is going through." As he spoke, Jane felt light prickles of hope. But right on its heels, her doubt surged again. But what if it doesn't change anything? What if it only makes things worse? "Sometimes, we need to break through our fears to find out what lies on the other side," he said softly, meeting her gaze with unwavering confidence. "Life seldom hands us easy paths, but you've shown so much strength, Jane." Jane's breath hitched. He was right. She had fought for Sarah each step of the way, and that resilience had to count for something. For once, perhaps she deserved to aim high for herself. A raucous laugh sliced through the diner, and Jane flinched. The girls were whispering and glancing her way, giggling over their milkshakes. Were they talking about her? About Sarah? The ferocity of her protective instinct flared up again as she held Mr. Thompson's gaze for grounding. "I don't want to keep running," she finally said, settling into the idea. "I want to face this. I want Sarah to see that it's okay to stand up for ourselves." "Then we will," he replied. "Together, we'll carve out a new way forward for both of you." Jane felt a surge of determination rise within her. But just as optimism began to blossom, one of the girls spotted her. Their laughter quieted down, replaced by attentive whispers punctuating the air like daggers. "Isn't that?" One voice floated over, eyes locking onto Jane with curiosity. Her heart raced, body rigid with apprehension. The tension in the diner shifted as the girls leaned back, their eyes gleaming with the thrill of potential gossip. Jane's pulse quickened, anxiety coiling like a tight spring in her chest. "What if they say something to Sarah?" she blurted, panic rising in her voice. The fear of backtracking loomed larger than her hopes. It felt like teetering on the edge of an unseen cliff. "Then we'll face it head-on," Mr. Thompson reassured her, calm and collected. "Together?" she whispered, searching for the anchor she desperately needed. "Always together," he confirmed solemnly, the weight of the promise hanging between them. As the laughter of the girls faded into whispering uncertainty, Jane held on to his words like a lifeline. But fate had a way of challenging even the strongest bonds. Was she ready to confront everything this journey would demand? The bell above the door jingled again, and another gust of wind swept into the diner. The storm outside mirrored the whirlwind within her. What awaited them on this new path? What obstacles threatened to stampede in their direction? With unresolved emotions swirling around her, Jane knew one thing for sure: their journey was just beginning, and the echoes of her past were about to clash with her future. Would the choices she made shield Sarah, or would they expose them both to deeper vulnerabilities? Jane's heart raced like a runaway train. She could feel the weight of the teenage girls' gazes locked upon her, full of unspoken judgments and snickers. She hated that they could stir up that familiar blend of anxiety and fear, especially when she was trying to be brave, trying to turn a corner for Sarah. "Look at them, like sharks circling," she muttered, the taste of bitterness sharp on her tongue. Demar. Thompson's hand found hers again, steady and comforting. "It's just a moment," he reminded her softly. "You're stronger than you know, Jane." She desperately wanted to believe that, she really did. But as laughter erupted again, followed by hushed whispers, a gnawing dread settled in her stomach. What if they saw her as an easy target? What if this was the moment everything shattered, the moment she failed to protect Sarah? Okay, maybe we should just leave, she suggested, glancing toward the door as if it might offer her an escape. Not yet, he replied, his voice firm but gentle. This is part of standing up for yourselves. You facing them now will set a precedent for Sarah. Their words felt like a lifeline, but the panic still clawed at her. But what if they get to Sarah first? What if she hears something that they twist around? After everything. I can't risk that. Then let us control the narrative, he said, locking eyes with her again, grounding her. You and Sarah can talk about anything they might say. Give her space to share her feelings freely. Jane swallowed hard, weighing his words. He was right. It was about more than just her, it was about showing Sarah how to fight back, how to reclaim her story. If they did talk, if she faced this now, it could help both of them. One of the girls leaned to whisper something to a friend, glancing back at Jane with a smirk. Jane felt the heat rise in her cheeks and her fists clenched. If she didn't do this now, if she shied away, it would only fuel the fire. Okay, she whispered, her resolve softening beneath the fear. Let us do it. But if they say one more thing, I'll be right beside you, Mr. Thompson promised, his voice steady as he took a half-step closer, as if sharing the weight that it was time to face the storm. Rising from her seat, Jane drew in a shaky breath, scanning the diner. The air felt charged, electric, as she approached the gaggle of giggling girls. The noise dwindled to a hush, their eyes wide as they recognized her determination. Hey, Jane said, her voice steadying with each word. Can we talk for a moment? I heard you were curious about me and Sarah. Their surprise was palpable, and the initial confrontation was met with stunned silence. Jane pressed on, embracing the vulnerability inside. I know that sometimes it's easy to make jokes, but hurtful words can have lasting impacts. I want you to think about that. She felt Mr. Thompson's presence behind her, his encouragement wrapped around her like a cloak of warmth. As she spoke, she began to see the shifting expressions on the girls' faces, a surprising mix of surprise and awareness. Maybe they didn't expect her to stand up like this, and it felt good. Empowering, the leader of the group opened her mouth, as if to defend herself, but Jane didn't wait. Before you say anything, I want you to know that both Sarah and I are working through some tough stuff. We're not perfect, but we're trying. And so should you. The girls' looks changed subtly, from playful to contemplative. Jane held her breath, hoping against hope that perhaps a bridge could be built. Do you know what it's like to feel vulnerable? She continued. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I want our energy to uplift instead of tear down. A flicker of genuine understanding crossed the girl's face. For the first time, Jane saw a hint of remorse, but before Jane could fully process this shift, a voice boomed through the diner, cutting their moment short. What is going on here? The unmistakable figure of the diner's owner, a burly man with a thick mustache, strode over. His eyes flickered between Jane and the girls, narrowing suspiciously. Unease crept back into Jane's veins. What did this mean for her stand? What would happen next? Would she break through to the girls, or was this just the beginning of another confrontation that could unravel everything? The pulsating tension from Mr. Thompson's unwavering support was quickly overshadowed by a fresh wave of uncertainty. And as she stood there, holding her breath, Jane knew this wasn't just a struggle with the girls, it was a fight for Sarah and the future they both hoped for. But it was only the beginning, and the stakes were looming higher than ever. The burly diner owner's presence loomed like a shadow, his brow furrowing in confusion. Jane felt every heartbeat thudding in her chest. The initial courage she'd summoned began to feel fragile, teetering on the precipice of chaos. Is this a scene I should be concerned about? He boomed, casting a sidelong glance at the girls, who looked momentarily chastened but exchanged nervous glances instead of defending themselves. No, sir. One of them squeaked, clearly taken aback. Jane's mouth felt dry, and she had to force the words out. "We were just having a conversation," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "I was explaining how our words can hurt. How we all deserve kindness." The owner's demeanor shifted, his frown softening slightly. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. "Kindness, huh? Well, I guess that's important." He turned to the girls, crossing his arms. "You lot could take a lesson from her." Jane caught the hesitant beginnings of a smile on the girl's face, but it was brief, quickly replaced by a defiant mask. "Whatever," she muttered, rolling her eyes but not without a hint of unease glimmering beneath. Jane's thoughts raced. The moment felt both liberating and dangerous. She had been granted an opening, but would she be able to seize it? The girl's laughter had dried up, giving way to a tension that felt both thrilling and terrifying. "Listen. I want you all to think about something," Jane continued, feeling Mr. Thompson's reassuring presence beside her. "I know it might feel good to joke around, but you don't know what someone is going through. You don't know what words can do." The heaviness of what her own family endured was an anchor for her now. The girls shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances. "Maybe your jokes are just fun for you," Jane added, controlling the tremor in her voice, "but to others, they can feel like a knife." The leader of the group, who had been quiet throughout the exchange, met Jane's gaze. For a brief moment, the defenses crumbled. "I guess I didn't think about it that way," she said softly, almost lost in the crowd of diners whispering around them. Time slowed, and Jane grasped for that vulnerability again. It takes so little to uplift someone. You could change someone's day with just a kind word or ruin it. Think about who you want to be. A silence stretched across the diner, thick with the weight of reflections. Mr. Thompson squeezed her hand, then the owner cleared his throat again, breaking the spell. "All right, ladies, I don't want any more noise out of you. As you heard, kindness costs nothing." Dismissed, the girls melted back into their seats, whispers bubbling with a mixture of disbelief and tentative acceptance as they huddled together. Jane could see the wheels turning in their minds. Had she really touched them? As the conversations around her resumed, she felt Mr. Thompson's proud gaze on her, and for the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider in her own life. Energy crackled through her. Maybe this was a small victory. "I'm proud of you," he whispered, and her heart soared. But just then, she noticed a familiar figure entering the diner, a small, frail man with white hair and a soft smile. Jane's heart tightened as she recognized Mr. Johnson, the elderly neighbor who lived down the street. They'd always shared sweet exchanges, but he'd grown increasingly isolated over the last year. What brought him out now? Her eagerness melted, replaced by concern as she noticed his labored steps. Was he okay? "Excuse me," she said, breaking free from Mr. Thompson's side. She made her way toward Mr. Johnson. "Mr. Johnson. Are you all right?" His smile faltered slightly as he looked around the diner, his milky blue eyes hinting at uneasiness. "Oh dear, I just wanted to grab a coffee." "It's nice to see you, dear, but it's a bit loud here." Jane's heart sank. "Let me help you," she quickly offered, her protective instincts kicking in. Leaning on him for support, she guided him to a quieter corner, but even as she aided him, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, the girl's eyes now flickering. Between them, flashing with curiosity and perhaps something deeper. And as the lingering warmth of her moment with the girls faded, Jane felt a new storm brewing, ignited by the unsettling reality of Mr. Johnson's presence. What was really going on with him? Why had he come to the diner, and what truths lay just beneath the surface of his gentle facade? As Jane settled Mr. Johnson into the corner booth, the familiar scent of coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the sound of clattering dishes and chatter. She could tell there was something off. His smile didn't reach his eyes like it used to. She noticed how his hands shook slightly as he grasped the menu. "Are you sure you're okay?" she asked, concern lacing her voice. "I can get you that coffee." He chuckled, though it sounded faint. "Oh, I'll be fine, Jane. Just getting old, I guess. It happens to the best of us." She smiled, but the ache in her heart deepened. "You don't look old. You look wise." She meant it, too. He had a way of seeing the world that always amazed her. "I appreciate that, but trust me, you'll get here someday." His eyes softened, and he glanced out the window. "Just had to get away for a bit, I suppose. My home feels so empty these days." The shift in his tone made her heart twist. "I'm here for you," Jane said, placing a comforting hand on his. "You're not alone." His gaze flicked back to her, and he smiled again, but this time it was tinged with sadness. "Oh, there are always people around. It's the connection that's hard to find." Just as Jane was about to reply, the laughter of the girls rose again behind them. They were chatting animatedly now, and one of them let out a laugh that felt sharp and piercing. Jane's heart sank a little. "Do you hear that?" "Those girls," Mr. Johnson said, pointing subtly with his chin. "They seem to have a lot of energy." Jane shifted uncomfortably, glancing back at the girls who were still whispering and throwing glances in her direction. "Yeah, I guess they do," she replied quietly, not wanting to go back to thinking about that moment just a few minutes ago. Mr. Johnson leaned in. "You know, Jane, kindness can be a powerful weapon," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it's also a choice." She felt a surge of recognition at his words. His kindness had always been a light for her in the dim moments of her life. In a small neighborhood where everyone seemed to mind their own business, Mr. Johnson was the one who noticed the little things, her struggle as a single mom, the late nights working, the few joys she clung to. "I want them to see that, to be better," she said, looking down at her hands. He studied her, his expression earnest. "You are showing them already," he said, then added gently, "but don't forget, you need kindness too." She looked up, feeling the tears prickle at the corners of her eyes. His words felt like a blanket of warmth, but the vulnerability they stirred inside was scary. "I sometimes forget," she admitted Dr. Johnson smiled, and the weight in the air felt a little lighter. "Keep that courage of yours. You radiate it, you know." Something flickered across his face, a shadow, but it disappeared as quickly as it had come. He paused. "Just like this diner, people can shine even through the noise." At that moment, Jane felt the pull of something deeper. "Mr. Johnson, what do you mean?" Before he could answer, the door of the diner swung open fiercely, letting in a gust of chilly air, and Jane's attention was drawn away. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw a woman she recognized, a stranger yet familiar, her sharp features illuminated against the diner's glow. Jane couldn't help but feel that something was about to crack open, both in the diner and within herself. What connection did this newcomer have with Mr. Johnson? The atmosphere shifted again, rippling with intrigue. Would Jane learn more about him today? Would she understand the truth he seemed to hold, pressing against the edges of their dialogue? As everything began to shift around her, a shiver of anticipation sparked her curiosity. What stories remained to be uncovered? With her heart racing, Jane knew the answers she sought were closer than ever, but the question remained. Would they change everything? Jane's heart raced as she watched the newcomer walk toward their booth, her mind racing with questions. The woman had an air of familiarity, yet Jane couldn't place her at all. She was tall and striking, with dark hair pulled back tightly, showcasing cheekbones that seemed to carve shadows against her skin. The diner's fluorescent lights bounced off her sleek black coat, making her appear almost ethereal. "Excuse me," the woman said, her voice smooth yet commanding. "Is this seat taken?" Mr. Johnson seemed taken aback, his eyes widening slightly as he looked at Jane before nodding slowly. "No, please," he said, motioning to the empty spot across from him. As she slid into the booth, Jane felt the weight of the woman's gaze on her, dissecting, analyzing. It felt invasive. Jane forced a smile but felt an inexplicable urge to shrink back. "Mr. Johnson, it's been a while," the woman said, her tone surprisingly warm, yet layered with something unspoken. "Yes, it has," he replied, his voice almost a whisper. He looked uncomfortable, shifting his hands on the table. Jane glanced from one to the other, the tension palpable. "You two know each other?" she asked, hoping to dissolve the sudden chill that had settled in their small corner of the diner. "Very well," the woman replied, glancing at Jane briefly. "I'm Clara, a friend of Mr. Johnson's from a long time ago." Mr. Johnson shifted again, his smile wavering. He glanced at Clara with a subtle plea in his eyes, as if silently asking her not to delve deeper. But Clara didn't seem to take the hint. "Life has a way of pulling us in different directions," she continued, eyes narrowing. "But one never forgets the people who matter. Especially those who cared when we needed it most." A new silence fell over the table, thick with unspoken history. Jane felt herself drawn into the moment, her curiosity mixing with concern for Mr. Johnson. He looked increasingly unsettled, the shaking of his hands now apparent again as he fidgeted with his napkin. "What do you mean?" Jane finally asked, breaking through the discomfort. "What did he do that mattered?" Mr. Johnson met her gaze, surprise flickering in his eyes. She held fast, her heart racing, determined to stand by him. "You have to tell her," she urged him, feeling the tears threaten again. The atmosphere inside the diner shifted as Clara leaned forward, her eyes glinting with unrestrained emotion. "He was more than just a kind neighbor. He changed lives. My life, especially." Jane's breath caught. She searched Mr. Johnson's face for answers, but he averted his gaze. "What are you saying?" Jane pressed, her voice firmer now. "That kindness has a backstory?" Clara nodded. "You see, Mr. Johnson took care of my mother when she was sick. He helped us more than I could ever repay." A lump formed in Jane's throat. "And he never once told me, never asked for recognition or thanks." Mr. Johnson's cheeks turned a shade of crimson as if he had been caught in a spotlight he never desired. The diner buzzed around them, normal and chaotic, yet Jane felt a bubble of warmth rise within her. To have cared so deeply, so selflessly, it reshaped everything. "What happened?" Jane whispered, the weight of the past reverberating in her heart. Just then, Clara continued, her expression shifting. "But there's more to it than that. Something he needs to know. And it's why I came today." Jane leaned in closer, feeling the pull of a story that was begging to be told, a revelation that could change the course of their lives. Mr. Johnson's face looked pale, and for that brief moment, the diner noise faded around them, replaced by the pounding of Jane's heart. As Clara's lips parted to speak again, Jane felt the room holding its breath along with her. What truth lingered in the air, waiting to upend everything they knew? Would Mr. Johnson's past collide with the present in a way they never saw coming? Clara took a deep breath, her voice pausing on the edge of uncertainty. "Mr. Johnson," she began, "there's something about your kindness to my mother that goes beyond simple acts of neighborly love. It's about who you really are and how your compassion has shaped more lives than you might even realize." The diner around them faded into a blur, and Jane's pulse quickened. She sensed the gravity of what Clara was about to unleash. It wasn't just about a good deed, it felt like the unearthing of something monumental. "After my mother passed," Clara continued, "I struggled to keep our family home. My father had left us years before, and we were barely making ends meet. You showed up at our door more times than I can count, bringing groceries, clearing snow in the winter. You weren't just helping us, you were giving us hope when it was fading away." Tears pricked Jane's eyes, and she glanced at Mr. Johnson, who now appeared fragile, as if each whispered word might shatter him. It was like he was peeling back layers of his own scars, revealing a soul that had hidden turmoil beneath a kind smile. "Honestly, that was just how I was raised," Mr. Johnson said, his voice hoarse. He finally looked up, locking eyes with Clara. "You don't understand. What I did was nothing special. Just the right thing to do." "That's where you're wrong," Clara interjected, her tone becoming firmer. You didn't just help us survive. You made me believe that kindness mattered. That there were still good people in the world. You shaped my future in ways you'll never know. Mr. Johnson's gaze flickered to the table, weighing the impact of those words, until Clara pressed on. My mother's last days were filled with fear, but you gave her comfort. And because of you I got to grow up believing that there is still beauty in humanity. That's why I've never forgotten you. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over Jane. She felt proud of him, but also sad. There was a weight to Mr. Johnson's unrecognized sacrifices that the world so often overlooks. It was a blessing wrapped in humility, a truth that resonated with an ache. Clara leaned in closer, her voice quieter now, almost conspiratorial. But that's not all. After my mother died, things were rough. I had to leave town for a job and lost touch. And just recently I found out that I've been given a chance to help others, just like you did for us. My company has started a foundation, and they're looking for someone like you as a partner. Someone with heart and dedication. Me? Mr. Johnson looked incredulous, shaking his head as if attempting to push away the thought. I don't think yes, you, Clara insisted. It's time you realized how much you have to offer the world. You've done enough hiding in the shadows. It's your time to shine. The words hung between them, electrifying the space. Jane found herself leaning in, captivated not just by Clara's resolve but the flickering spark of hope igniting in Mr. Johnson. What do you think? Clara asked, her gaze steady, urging him to embrace the invitation he seemed desperate to resist. For a moment, silence enveloped them, thick and heavy, as Mr. Johnson weighed the possibilities. His fingers trailed across the table, still fidgeting, but now there was a softness, the stirrings of belief. Tell me more, he finally replied, opening a door Jane had never realized was shut. Her heart lifted, pulse quickening with the promise of change, and just when Jane thought they were on the cusp of healing, a loud crash from the diner's kitchen sent everyone jumping. Out from the chaos of broken dishes, a familiar voice called out loudly, filled with urgency. Clara! We need you here, now. The moment shattered like glass, scattering the warmth they had begun to build. Clara's face shifted, torn between the weight of the conversation and the call for her attention. I'm sorry, she said, setting her eyes on Jane and Mr. Johnson, regret pouring from her words. I need to take care of this. Jane felt a rush of panic. Wait. What about the partnership? The foundation? Clara paused, momentarily conflicted, her expression resolute yet vulnerable. This isn't over. I'll find you both again. I promise. With those final words, Clara rushed away, leaving the air charged with uncertainty and anticipation. Jane turned to Mr. Johnson, whose expression mirrored her turmoil. What just happened? She whispered, feeling the tension drawn tight like a bowstring, but Mr. Johnson was lost in thought, his heart wrestling with newfound possibilities. As the diner buzzed back to life, Jane wondered, could Clara's words truly be the turning point for Mr. Johnson? Or would uncertainty continue to shadow their lives? The diner hummed with chatter and the clatter of plates, but Jane felt isolated in a strange bubble of tension. She studied Mr. Johnson, whose eyes remained distant, clouded with uncertainty. The promise of opportunity dangled between them, but it was as if a storm was brewing behind his calm facade. Mr. Johnson, she said softly, you really shouldn't brush off what Clara said. You know how much you mean to us. He barely moved, his fingers still tracing patterns on the wooden table. I just never saw it that way, you know. It was all about keeping my own head above water. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke, revealing the depth of his introspection. Maybe it's time to look at things differently. Clara sees something in you, she urged, catching a flicker of hope in her chest. What if you could help others like you helped her? Isn't that worth exploring? Mr. Johnson leaned back, eyebrows drawn in thought. I'm not sure I'm the right person for that kind of responsibility. I'm just me. Just you. Jane shook her head, biting her lip to suppress the tears threatening to spill. You've shown kindness when many wouldn't. You've lived through hardship and survived. That kind of experience matters. Does it? I don't know, he sighed, allowing the heaviness to sink in. The diner's atmosphere went quiet as Clara's voice echoed in Jane's memory, "It's your time to shine." The words floated through her mind like a gentle wind. Taking a breath, she leaned forward. "Listen, you can't underestimate your value. You're the kind of person whose light brightens others' lives. Maybe it's time to step from the sidelines." A hesitant smile danced on Mr. Johnson's lips, but it was fleeting. "What if they see me as just an old man? A nobody?" "That's not how Clara sees you, and it certainly isn't how I do." Jane's voice sharpened with urgency. "You've got a chance to show people the strength of your heart. Your story matters, Mr. Johnson." The waitress approached their table, filling their mugs with coffee. "You two look deep in conversation." She grinned and then moved to fill another table. Jane offered a polite smile, but her heart remained rooted to Mr. Johnson's struggle. "We're talking about making a difference," she said softly, hoping the words would draw his focus back from the doubts swirling in his mind. "Yeah, a difference." He stared into his mug, the weight of the world evident on his weathered face. A moment of silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken fears and hope. Suddenly, a child's laughter sliced through the din of the diner, vibrant and carefree, pulling Jane's thoughts to familiar memories. "You know," she said, a smile breaking through the tension, "sometimes, it's in those simplest moments when we find our voices." "You think so?" Mr. Johnson's gaze met hers, something shifting in his expression. "I really do. Remember how Clara said you gave her hope? If you could help ease someone else's burden, it would ripple out. One act of kindness leads to another." He drew in a deep breath, contemplating her words. "What if I mess up?" His voice decreased to a murmur. "That's okay," Jane assured him, her heart racing with excitement. "Messing up is part of learning. It means you're trying. Think of all you've faced. This could be a new chapter." Mr. Johnson leaned back, watching the diner patrons with newfound curiosity. The flicker of possibility shone in his eyes, a glimmer that hadn't been there moments before. Just then, Clara dashed back to the table, her face a mix of apologies and determination. "I'm so sorry," she gasped, her breath catching. "I didn't mean to leave you hanging." The warmth that returned to the table felt electric, sparking new energy among them. "Have you talked?" Clara grabbed a chair, excitement evident in her animated gestures. "We were just discussing the foundation," Jane said, hopeful the fire they'd begun might ignite further. Clara turned to Mr. Johnson, her eyes bright. "What do you say? Are you ready to take the leap?" He hesitated, but something had shifted within him, a quiet courage beginning to bloom. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, the diner's door swung wide and in walked a figure from his past, a flash of familiarity washing over him. "Mr. Johnson." The newcomer called out, their eyes locking. "It's been too long." Jane's heart raced, anticipation filling the air like a tightrope. What would this interruption mean for the choices ahead? Would it shatter the fragile hope they had built or strengthen the path they were striving to create together? The diner fell silent as all eyes turned to the newcomer. A tall man with an easy smile approached their table, familiarity radiating in every step. "Dave?" Mr. Johnson's voice cracked, eyes wide with disbelief. "Is that really you?" Their embrace was tight, a reconnection after years apart. Jane watched the scene unfold, each wrinkle on Mr. Johnson's face softening as memories flooded back. The warmth of camaraderie was palpable, and Jane felt a swell of possibility. Perhaps this was part of the change they needed. "I thought I'd never see you again," Dave exclaimed, pulling back, still grinning widely. "I've followed your story, you know. Everyone in town admired what you did for Clara and her family. You became a legend, my friend." Jane's heart raced at the mention of Clara. This moment could empower them, activate the kindness that had hung in the air like invisible threads. Everyone could see it but you, Jane said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of her admiration. I've made my peace with the past, just like you, Dave said with a nod to Mr. Johnson. You don't realize how much you shaped lives just by being you. Mr. Johnson shifted in his seat, emotions flaring behind his gentle exterior. I just did what felt right, he muttered, looking down at the table, overwhelmed. I wish I could be done more. But Dave wasn't finished. You see, that's the thing. You may feel it was small, but every action, every kind gesture ripples out. I've known Clara for years, but you were the one who gave her family hope when they had none. When you took care of them, it impacted me, too. I never forgot. The diner buzzed around them, but Jane felt like this was their moment. Mr. Johnson, she interjected gently, you have a chance now to help more people. It's time to embrace it. You are the embodiment of everything we talked about: kindness, compassion, hope. As Mr. Johnson looked up, she could see the flicker of realization lighting up his eyes. Perhaps it's time I step out of the shadows, he said quietly, the words trembling with newfound strength. Dave beamed at him. Absolutely. With your heart, you can change your community, and I'd love to help. Let us not waste this opportunity. Just then, Clara leaned in, her excitement palpable. You're right, Dave. Together, we can get something started that'll make a real difference. You can make it a movement. The vision of the future unfolded in front of Jane, one where kindness didn't just exist in isolated moments but thrived as a community effort. It felt electric. Mr. Johnson inhaled deeply, reminiscent of his earlier hesitancy, but now his eyes shone with determination. Where do we start? The idea ignited conversations around them, a roll of excitement spilling into the diner. Other patrons began to listen, drawn into the unfolding connection. Jane could feel a warmth fuzzing the edges of her heart. This was the shift they had all been waiting for. Together. Clara shouted, rallying everyone. We need to rally local support. We can help people like you helped my family. Jane nodded vigorously. And we can create workshops for kids. Empower them to be kind, to uplift each other instead of hurting. The diner's owner, who had busied himself at the counter, turned to listen amidst the chatter. There was power brewing here, unity among the threads of strangers. Jane felt the sense of community she had been yearning for all along. Change can start here, in this diner. We've connected through kindness. It's time we take action. Mr. Johnson's face softened, glimmers of belief sparkling in his eyes. I guess it's time I share my story and show that kindness can multiply. Yes. Dave cheered, lifting his coffee cup high. Let us start with that and build a foundation to support others. You've already inspired one person in your life. Imagine the lives we could touch together. And as Jane watched Mr. Johnson come alive, she knew that this was the turning point for them all. Hope swirled around the diner like confetti in the air. There was laughter, conversation, and a sense of synergy as people began to rally forward. Jane felt lighter, the weight of the past finally lifting. Together, she whispered, realizing how much they'd all grown. We can change everything. As the laughter and chatter of life continued to fill the diner, Jane, Mr. Johnson, Dave, and Clara united in their resolve. With a heart full of dreams, they knew this was just the beginning, a wonderful journey of making kindness echo in their community, and with the final bell of destinies ringing in the air, she couldn't help but feel that they had all just set off on something beautiful. That if you believe in the power of kindness and transformation, now is the time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help these messages reach more hearts. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. It means the world to hear your thoughts. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation unfold. Your support drives this community, and only true fans understand how important it is to uplift one another.